kann mein Wort Deutsch reden, gar nichts. Komplett unverständlich reden die.
Gar nichts.
Gar nichts.
Grüß Gott, you magnificent people of Austria. This is the worst guide to living in Austria. It is literally the worst guide to living in Austria. It is the worst podcast you could be streaming into your ear holes right now. I have no idea why you do it to yourself. You deserve better. Okay, maybe I do know. Maybe it's got something to do with the name of the guy that's mentioned in the title of this episode. He is the storyteller of happiness. He has written hundreds and hundreds of books, and many of those books have sold millions of copies abroad. Many Austrians grew up with him on their television set, and he is the creator of many Austrian kids programs, including the famous Tom Turbo and Knickerbocker Gang. It's not easy to say. Anyway, enough of me, because I know you're not here for me. You're here for Thomas, and I understand. I've accepted that a long time ago. People of Austria, Mr. Thomas Brezina. Okay. Grüß Gott, Mr. Thomas Brezina.
Hallo. Einen schönen Tag.
Einen schönen Tag. It is a schönen Tag with you in the Wurst studio here today. Thank you for giving us the time today.
Thanks for the invitation.
Can I call you Thomas?
Yes, of course.
Yeah, Thomas is
Nobody calls me Herr Brezina or Mr. Brezina. Nobody. And if you want to pronounce it correctly in English, it's Brezina. Because, you know, I live half of the year or part of the year I live in England, and there I'm called Thomas Brezina.
Really?
But of course, yes, of course. But nobody, but of course, everybody calls me Thomas.
But that's beautiful.
Yeah.
You sound like you should be doing ballet with Brezina. I could see that on a big poster somewhere. Yeah. Look, I've got to tell you, you are an extremely loved figure in Austria. You're one of the first names I heard when I came here.
Thank you.
You've written hundreds of books. You are a very creative, hardworking individual, very accomplished. And here you are in a cellar in the 6th district, a podcast cave, speaking to a random Australian in the Wurst studios.
Oh,
I got to say,
listen, I'm happy not to sit in a walk-in wardrobe. This is where I record my podcasts.
Really?
Yeah, surrounded by, you know, all my winter stuff in summer and all my summer stuff in winter. This is where I record. So this here is really comfortable. Thank you very much.
Yeah, but this is also nice, doing a podcast when you're surrounded by your clothes.
Oh,
know?
yes,
This
I
is
love
comforting.
it. Yeah, it's a bit small, but nevertheless, it's nice.
Yeah, but that's nice. Yeah, but I was about to say, I think you can do better. I don't know. I very much appreciate that you're here. I feel very honored that you are here, sitting here with me.
It's very kind of you to say that, but I honestly don't see it like this.
Yeah?
I'm just, thank you very much. For me, every experience is nice.
Yeah.
Yes, I choose what I'm doing because time is very limited. You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
But if I agree and if I say yes, I really looked forward to what I'm doing, whom I'm meeting. And yeah.
Okay, well,
That's
I've got
how
a
I see it.
big goofy smile on my face right now. Thank you very much. And what they say is true. Everything, the smile is as good as they talk about your smile. It's famous in these parts of the world. Can you teach me how to smile like you? So many people become so happy when they see your smile. Why do you think that is?
Okay, I tell you, and I've often talked about it. I'm not the happiest person in the world, and I'm not happy all the time. In fact, I'm a quite melancholic person. And someone once described to me that part of my creativity comes from this melancholy. And so in life, I had to learn how to enjoy more, how to be happy, how to see the world through eyes which have a smile. And then there's something very important. I found a lot of pictures of myself when I was 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years old. And on every picture, you see me smiling with a broad smile. And then I knew this smile is still in me. But when you grow up, it gets covered, like the sun sometimes gets covered by clouds.
Yeah.
And this is what you experience, your education, everything.
Yeah.
Okay, but our main job is to bring the sun back to shine.
Yeah.
And this is what I've learned to do. And this is also what I'm try to pass on.
Yeah.
Because it's absolutely possible.
But you must be that must have taken a lot of discipline. If your default setting is melancholic, like myself, this must require a huge amount of discipline to push yourself every day to remember that child that smiled in every picture, and to have that as your setting throughout the day. I think that's fantastic.
You don't have to push yourself. I think this is part of the secret. You just have to remind yourself. And for me, the most important thing is gratitude. When I wake up in the morning, I think about 3 things in my life I'm grateful for, and 3 things about the day. So even when I have meetings, which might be a little bit more difficult or challenges, I'm in advance grateful that they are going to be fine. In advance, I already say, oh, thank you so much that this has gone so well. But there are other things, okay, my dog sleeps in my arms. So when I wake up, I'm happy that he's there. And I'm grateful about that. And I'm grateful about my husband. I'm grateful about the room I wake up.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's those things. There are so many more things around us.
Yeah.
We can be grateful every day, every moment.
Yeah.
And this creates happiness. So the discipline just is to see it. And I do the same in the evening. Before I fall asleep, I think at least about 3 things I'm really grateful for. And I tell you, this is the foundation of a life which is it fulfilled? No, but a life where you realized that there are a lot of wonderful things around you.
Yeah, where you feel it. You're
Yes.
you're able to feel each day, and you live in it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And not every day is a happy day.
Yeah.
Happiness can be a stress, and it should never be. And I think I'm now publishing a new book, which is called Better Than You Think.
Another one. You're
Another
doing
one
another one.
For
You've got-
adults.
How many to your name do you have already? 500 plus?
580, something like that.
You're a machine.
Yeah, but this is a story about a positive view on life, and it's a little, it's a story, and in it there are 2 myths. Number 1, only a happy life is a good life, which is completely wrong, and number 2, you always have to be happy, and this only means stress.
It's true.
We have ups, we have downs. And this is human nature, and this is called life. And a friend of mine said, this is like the heartbeat. On the monitor, it goes dum, bum, 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 bum. You know, if it's a flat line, you're dead.
So if you're always happy, you're pretty much dead. You might as well be dead. If it's a flat
you wouldn't
line.
be happy because you would think
That's true.
there must be something which makes me happier.
Yeah.
Because why is it always the same?
Yeah, because you always crave another level
Exactly.
of happiness if you're always chasing it. Yeah.
Exactly. It's the contrast
Yeah.
which actually makes us happy. Okay, those are many things I've learned during my life. I had to learn because at the time when I became really successful, unbelievably successful within 3 years, I was the unhappiest person ever because I was completely overwhelmed. I was very young. I was 30, 31. I thought, oh my God, what I'm going to do with the rest of my life? What is coming now? And okay, you are now on the best-selling list, and but then the book is not as long as on the best-selling list as the other one. You get stressed.
Yeah.
And this is, again, very human.
Because you've got a lot more to protect. As in, you've gone from this position of where you've got nothing to lose. You're doing it for the creativity.
Exactly.
And the wild, like you're kind of just stepping into it without worrying what's going to happen.
Exactly.
And then you've got a lot to lose. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. What was that moment like when you've had your first big break? Because the first big break, what would you define as your first big break in your career?
Okay, there were many.
Yeah.
Look, and I think, okay, that's what I've learned. I've always felt successful, even when I was very young and when I wrote for the radio good night stories. Nobody wanted to write them.
This?
Yes, I did.
This is a
I wrote
fantastic
600 good night stories. For me, this was my first paid job as a writer. I was so proud.
Wow.
If I told it to people, they laughed about it. They smiled. Nobody took me seriously. For me, this was success. So, and this is how I've always felt. I started as a TV director, actually, at Kids TV. And doing shows for kids was not very popular in Austria. It was always seen as, you do some work at kids television and then you go to the real television, to the series.
Okay.
I never saw it like that. I wanted to do television and writing for kids. Don't ask me why. I don't know. That's how it was. And so I first directed. Then by accident, I changed in front of the camera and became a presenter, not knowing what it meant. Of course, after 1 or 2 years, I realized that I'm recognized in the street. I didn't know that this is going to come. I had no expectations. I just loved doing it. And this developed very well. I think this was a good step. But then I started writing books, again by accident. I didn't want to. A publisher approached me, knowing my stories from the radio. He said, write books. I started. And this was Knickerbocker Gang. And they become very popular within 1 or 2 years because I wanted to make kids read. And I came from television. So I said the dramaturgy we do on television has to be the same in a book. You have to get your reader within the first page. And my thinking was, and how do I get them read? And how that they continue? And I looked after everything, even the size of the font, the letters, everything. And that worked. And so within 1 or 2 years, Knickerbocker became very, very successful. And 3 years later, Tom Turbo came. And first the books, by accident again, the TV show, because the original bike was made for the book promotion.
Really?
Yes. And we just, someone said, can we do this, solve yourself mysteries on TV in any way? And I said, we have this Tom Turbo. And I think it's a nice character. So this is how we started with the first episodes, not knowing that then we are going to shoot another 400.
It became so well loved.
Yes.
How did you come up with Tom Turbo? Like, this requires such a wild imagination to come up with such a character like that.
Okay. Knickerbocker was already doing very well, and I had a lot of book readings and signing sessions. And in one of those book signings, I was sitting and kids came, and suddenly a 6-year-old was standing in front of me and looked at me and said, "You are the meanest person on earth." And I mean, you expect everything at a book signing, but not someone saying that.
Especially to you.
I looked at him, I said, "Why?" And then he said, "Because you only write books for my older brother, but not for me. And my mom doesn't allow that I read Knickerbocker because she says it's too spooky and too exciting." And my publisher was standing behind me and patted me on the shoulder and said, "Thomas, that's a hint. You should write mysteries for a younger age group." So I went home and I thought about that, and I came up with the idea of a talking horse and 2 kids. And then I started to write the first mystery, and it didn't work. Absolutely not. And then I knew that's not it. And then I walked in the street and I saw kids on their bikes, and suddenly I had this flash memory, seeing myself on my bike. This was freedom for me. I always had a box with certain things in it. At that time, there were no mobiles, but walkie-talkies. I always had a walkie-talkie on my bike.
Wow, you had a cool bike.
Yes, and it was freedom. And then I suddenly had the idea, that's what I'm going to do. A talking bicycle with 111 tricks. And his first name was Tom Tiger, because this is why he still has those stripes. And 3 days before the first book was printed, the publisher phoned me and said, "Thomas, the name Tom Tiger is protected. There's a copyright protection. We can't use it. What shall we do? We write it with IE, in German, this long I. I said, "No, it's terrible." I was in a rush. I had to go back to the TV studio. And I said, "You know what? We call him Tom Turbo." And there was a pause, and then the publisher said, "That's a much better name." And so he got his name. Yes.
I got to admit. But there's also Team Tiger, no? Like the series that you have, Tiger Team.
No, Tiger Team.
Tiger Team, yeah.
Tiger Team.
Yeah,
yes, Tiger is strong.
Yeah, that's true. Wow. So a lot of your inspiration comes from your childhood, actually. So
Yes.
you must have a very good memory. Like, because I don't remember much from my childhood. I have so much blanked out. It's so sad.
I remember a lot.
Yeah.
I remember the good things.
Yeah.
And I remember when I got hurt.
Yeah.
And I remember a lot. And I can still talk to the kid I used to be, whether he would like an idea. And I test a lot on me because I say, if it doesn't fascinate me, an idea, if it doesn't fascinate me as an adult or as the kid I used to be, then it's not a good idea.
Yeah.
And when I walk around and when I create new things, I very often watch kids in my, among my friends or in families I know. And I just look at them and I always imagine, okay, if they would read the story, if they would watch the TV program, if they would do something, would they like it? Yes or not? And yes or no? And then I get a kind of feeling.
Yeah, well, I think you've achieved what a lot of people would love to achieve, is because I strongly feel that to live a happy or moderately happy life or a fulfilled life, you have to keep in contact with that kid that you were. You have to be a kid, keep that perspective of a kid your whole life. And then anything is possible in a life, I feel.
My theory today is the following, and I've just written a book about it, which comes out in May.
So name of the book, let's plug it properly.
I can tell you. Okay, the first story I talked about before is called in German, Besser als du denkst, eine Erzählung über die Zuversicht.
Okay, good.
Okay, about faith.
Yeah.
A story about faith. And the other one is coming out in May. It's called Entdecke die Glückskraft der Kinder in dir.
Wow.
As a kid, okay, do you know any kid which has a burnout while playing? No. Do you know any kids who are exhausted when they play?
No.
No. They are going to be tired.
But now I've got this picture of a kid in a business suit on the playground really talking about burnout.
No, they will not, because they only play what is fun and joy to them, to their inner mechanism in a way.
Yeah.
And this is like we have a fingerprint. There's something in us which gives us the feeling of fulfillment, of joy, of happiness, of everything. And it's like a fingerprint. It's very, very individual in each and every of us. And my theory today is, as adults, we think we have to be different. And we also think that a lot of things we enjoyed while we were kids are not as important anymore. And curiosity, taking your time for certain things. We just think, no, that's not so possible, important. Or a birthday.
Yeah.
You know, every kid loves his or her birthday.
So
what
true.
do? We moan about, oh my God, another year older. Yeah, thank God, because otherwise we wouldn't be here.
Yeah.
I mean,
what's a birthday for Thomas look like? What is your birthday? What do you normally do?
Oh, it's always a special day.
Yeah, I love my birthday.
Yes, me too. And it has always to be something which is memorable for me. I always create something which is memorable.
Yeah.
And of course, look, I'm 59 now. I can't imagine getting 60 next year because the number is not in my head in a way. It's not listed.
Yeah.
But and
you stopped at 59. There's no more numbers after that.
No, I think I stopped at 38. And someone explained to me there's a felt age and there's a biological age. And it's good to live the age you feel like. Just remember your biological age because it sometimes needs some attention or respect.
Yeah, but you look like your felt age. I gotta be honest, like you're looking really good. You're like living model of this saying, you know, like when you're serious and you're stressed, you age.
Yes.
And this is obviously true about the body, but you are the antithesis of that. You're looking great for 59 years of age.
It has not always been like that, but it's now, and I'm very grateful for that. So as a kid, you know, there were so many things which made us happy, and we have to remember them. And if you try to think back as a kid, what did I like to play when did I lose time? What were the things I was doing? Then you will probably find out what would be a good direction in your life to go now.
Yeah.
And it's very, very often like that. I have a book editor. I told him the idea, and then he said, that's very interesting. My nan recently told me that even as a kid, when she told stories to me when I was 4. I started analyzing the different characters and people. And when we started writing, I was always, I loved to find, that everything's correct, etc., etc. And he said, he had forgotten about that. But he said, it's true. This was always him. And my father, he was a radiologist. He loved helping people, but he loved every technical gadget stuff, etc. So radiologist was the perfect job for him. Was already in him when he was a child.
Yeah. So the key is, or another key to a happy life is not denying that fingerprint that you have within you.
Yes.
Yeah. You are a very beloved figure in Austria, and I've already said that, but I can't emphasize it enough. When people see your face, they feel happiness, which is, I was wondering, does this, and you're also a role model for kids, does this come as a pressure for you? Like, do you feel like you have to act a certain way when you're in public, or is it just, it comes naturally for you and you don't really need to behave in any certain way?
Okay. I live for 25 years now. No, even more. 26, 27 years. I've been living part of the year in London. I have a flat there. I write many of my books and stories there. I go there because nobody knows me there. And I really appreciate the way people approach me in Austria. I feel extremely honored. I always say, for me, no prize, no medal, nothing could be better and more precious to me than what people write to me on social media, on Instagram, on TikTok, etc., or what people say to me when they meet me in the street. It is so kind, honestly. I'm really grateful. But at the same time, sometimes I'm a human being, and not sometimes, I am a human being. Sometimes I'm not in a good mood. Sometimes I'm tired. Sometimes I don't want to smile. Sometimes I want to pick my nose, without being watched.
Yeah.
Okay. And London is, for me, not a contrast, but there, in this way, it's a bit easier. And I think it's also very, very healthy, because otherwise I think there's a danger you get a bit vain, or you think of yourself as more like a character, not like the person you are. And I want to feel like I am and who I am, which also means I have to be honest. So when I'm not in a good mood, etc., I stay home, because kids wouldn't understand. So whenever a kid comes, of course I have to be friendly. I want to be friendly, but as every human, there are days, when I just say, please, leave me alone. But not in a bad way.
Of course.
It's just in a human way. And this is when I say, okay, then I stay home. Or when I'm in London, this is not a big problem. I've learned to balance that. But on the other hand, I think everyone who works in public, is known, and who says, oh God, it's so terrible that they recognize me. Sorry, that's a lie. If people wouldn't do it, everyone would say, oh my God, nobody recognizes me anymore. So I see it as a big compliment, but I handle it with care.
You have also a very clean image. So I'm wondering, do you have any vices or like guilty pleasures that you have that I know you're not probably going to tell me, because that would then blow your cover as Thomas Brezina, but do you have anything besides picking your nose, as you mentioned before?
Okay, I'll tell you something which might sound very strange to you. I've never been drunk in my life.
Really?
Never.
You don't drink at all?
I drink, of course.
Okay.
I love to drink a glass of wine in the evening, and I always say it takes the edges of of the day. I love that. I don't like to get drunk because I don't like to lose control. I've never taken drugs in my life. Never. But I've always had.
Yet you still came out with Tom Turbo. I'm impressed.
Thank you. So you see what the mind can achieve. But I've always had someone at my side, like a coach, like someone who supports me, like someone I can talk on a professional base.
That's great.
But I've never taken drugs. But I need someone I can talk about my fears with. I can tell everything which goes on in my mind, etc. That's important. And how shall I say? I was always a good boy at school. I was much, But I give you an example. When I was 16, 17, I was already working at television as a puppeteer during school time. And my parents signed the, how do you call it, excuses? Or,
Yeah.
They signed it. So I had about 150 to 180 lessons per semester I missed.
Wow.
But I was excused.
Uh-huh.
But I worked there.
But your parents must have been very supportive.
They were.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, and this was important. But they only were because I was good at school.
Okay.
And the teachers had to accept it because nobody could say, yeah, but he misses too much of the lessons or so. I was good enough. I was more than good enough. My marks were good. And this is a bit my life.
Yeah. Well, and you've worked hard for that, obviously. That hasn't been easy for you, I'm sure. So let's go into your craft a bit. How do you go about coming up? You're prolific as a writer. You've written so many books. You're a presenter. You've got a podcast now. The name of the podcast is Einfach Glücklich. So I definitely recommend listening to it. I binge listened to it the last week.
Really? Thank you so much.
So writing a new book. Can you give us a bit of insight into the process there? Like, how do you begin? So you've already explained you get a bit of inspiration from your childhood. Where else do you get inspiration, and how do you sit down and write?
By now, it's that half of the books I write are for adults, half of the books are for children. And then of the books for adults, about half are kind of self-help books, and the other half are novels. What I do is, it's very difficult to describe.
Yeah.
Ideas come to my mind. Don't ask me where from, don't ask me how. The more relaxed I am, the easier an idea comes. So, and when I'm on the move or moving around, meaning this is one of the reasons this going back and forth between Austria and London is important for me, because then suddenly things come to my mind.
You need movement.
I need movement. I need the change. I need movement. That's me. What comes to my mind are sometimes basic stories. It also comes when I read something, when I watch something, when I look around, when I see people, when I see a location, and suddenly a basic idea comes, kind of, that could be interesting, that could be exciting. And the first thing I always need is the title. I need the title first. This is the stone you throw into the pond, and then those rings.
The ripples, yeah.
The ripples.
Beautiful.
The ripples.
Oh.
And this is when the ripples fill the pond. Yeah. This is how the story grows in my mind.
Wow.
And when I sit down, I've about 50% of the story in my head, or taken notes or so.
Yeah.
And then I start writing. And then I write. And sometimes in the morning, I sit down at 8:30, normally 9 latest.
Yeah.
And then sometimes I play backgammon for 4 hours because I don't know how to start.
Yeah.
And then suddenly a sentence comes to my mind, and then I start writing, and then I write for 3-4 hours.
Yeah.
And I'm in this what's called flow, totally absorbed by the story. I always stop in the middle of the sentence.
Yeah.
And when I've still a lot of ideas left, which I note down for the next day.
Oh,
because
that's very good.
when I start the next day, first of all, I reread what I've written the day before. Most of the time, I can't even remember.
Okay.
And then it's much easier to start with to finish a sentence.
Yeah.
And then I have
the momentum.
Yes, and then I have the ideas already, so I can continue. And this is how I work. And there are good days, and there are other days which are not so good. When I write something new, I get very insecure and self-conscious, and I send a lot to my agent, to my publisher, to my closest assistant in this management team I have, and they read it and they give me feedback. My publisher is really, really, really excellent in this, because he's very kind, and even if it doesn't work at all, but he sees that it's going to be a good thing, he can explain it in a way I can take these comments very easily, and I can make a lot out of it.
Wow, that's great. Because you don't want to be crushed when you're in the middle of a creative project.
No. But I need that. I need this feedback, because it's very lonely to write.
Yeah.
And this is how I work.
Are you an excited writer? Do you get really excited at your desk, or are you more of a really focused, like...
I am focused, but I'm very excited when I write in the Starbucks in London, or when I write in public somewhere. You know, sometimes I go there because if you have noises around you, it sometimes helps to focus.
Yeah.
I very often in London, my studio is on the second floor, and I sometimes have the radio playing just a little bit because. And I have spoken programs, but I can't understand what is spoken. I just hear the voice, and it helps me to focus.
Yeah.
So when I do that, people now told me once, they were laughing around me. And I said, what's going on? And they said, you're talking while you're writing. You are mimicking. You're playing all the roles.
Yeah.
And yes, of course, I was not aware of that. That's what I'm doing.
Yeah. Have you ever had a mentor that has helped you along the way? So, or who do you bounce ideas off of besides your manager and stuff? Have you ever had somebody that's taught you how to write?
No. I don't know whether, as a writer, whether you're self-taught. I read a lot when I was a kid, and then I stopped reading, and then I started reading again in the last 3 years of school. And this is the time when I came across English and American literature, and this is what I loved.
Okay.
I have problems with German literature. This is not so much me. I love the English way of storytelling. Probably part of the reason why I love being in London. And what I had my whole life is sometimes very good editors, sometimes good publishers. At the moment, I have an excellent agent who is, how shall I say, he loves reading. He has read unbelievably much in his life, and he is very passionate about what I'm doing, but he's also critical in a way. So a book I recently wrote, he then said, Thomas, I'm sorry, I can't deal with that. I don't think this has the right attitude, the right tone or so. And he explains it very nicely, and he was right. And I changed it within a day or 2 days. I rewrote everything, and he read it and said, yeah, that's perfect. I have an excellent publisher, and now I have an editor who is very young, but he's great because I can just write. And he then reads it, and then he comes up and says, listen, in the structure, there's something missing here, or you have to do this, or carry, blah, blah, blah. He comes up with very practical kind of suggestions and solutions. So for me, it's very easy to rework. Wow. And the good thing is he has this outer eye, I would call it now. You know, I'm too absorbed in the story. Yeah. He can see it from the outside. Yeah. And he can tell me exactly where the puzzle is not right, or where something has to be added, or where it's too quick, or whatever. Yeah. So I can rely on that, and I do the most important thing, which is getting the story out of my head first. Yeah. Without thinking too much.
Yeah. Well, that would be a difficult job, editing Thomas Brezina's work, because you're so big. But he must be very honest with you, and obviously not be afraid to say, hey, this needs to be filled out. This needs to be. Yeah. Well, I couldn't imagine you're a tyrant if he gives you feedback.
No, but I'm very. Listen, I appreciate that. Yeah. Because what I want to do is I want to create and I want to write. It's the same when I create TV programs. I create the vision, the idea, and then I have a production team who tries to find a way how to produce it. And of course, I have to adapt. I sometimes have to cut things. I have to adapt or whatever. But I'm not sitting there and saying, okay, for this budget, how do we do that? Yeah. I think about what's the program going to be? How shall it be? What's the experience? What's the adventure behind it? What's the story, etc.? And they then, of course, I know how we can produce, and so I'm not illusionary about things. But they then try to get it in shape, and then we work together. But if I limit myself initially, it will never be that good. Yeah. And it's the same about storytelling. Yeah. You should tell your story, and then you need to have someone who is very honest and critical in a constructive way. And I've just posted on TikTok a video where I say, and honestly, this is the trick. I only have myself criticized by people I would ask for advice.
Wow. It's a good strategy.
Yeah.
I'm going to take that one. I've already learned many things from this podcast. You've been writing for 20 plus years now?
Oh, much longer. Yeah. I started 32 years.
Yeah. So you've been writing mainly most of the career with the mission to get kids to read, to inspire kids to read. No?
More. Sorry to interrupt you.
No, it's okay.
The way I write,
Yeah.
I always want I want to make it easy for kids to read. The stories are about everything which is fascinating. I want to show them that there's a lot more in them than they might see. I want to tell them you can. It's not easy. If you work together, it will be easier, but also working together is a challenge.
Yeah.
And you have to find your way. I want to tell them that there is so much on this planet which is great, which is fascinating, which is worth not only looking at, discovering, experiencing.
Yeah.
With my stories, I sometimes just want to give them a holiday from everyday's life, which is hard enough for us and for every kid. I love to tell them about feelings, I love to write kind of comedy, especially family comedy, you know, how things go, and to exaggerate it a bit, like in a comedy.
Yeah, because it's very relatable as well.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's a big...
Your mission is big, but it's a beautiful one.
My mission is storytelling.
Mission is storytelling.
I'm the storyteller of happiness. This is what I call myself now, because I think this describes it best, what I want to do.
How has that changed over the last, since you began? How has it changed to capture children's imagination from, so let's say, when was your first book published?
1990.
1990 and in 2022. How is it different to capture their imagination from your experience?
Okay, look, in 32 years, a lot of new media has come up. The choice a kid has today is much bigger, much broader, much wider, and that's how it is.
Yeah.
Full stop.
Yeah.
So if you expect to have as many readers as you could have in 1990, that's an illusion.
Yeah.
Kids themselves, what they are fascinated by hasn't changed very much. No. And this also shows the success of Tom Turbo, who has been now popular for nearly 30 years. Next year it's 30 years. And they are still curious. They want to have adventure. They want to have a challenge. They love interactive things. But of course, interactivity is today more on a mobile or on a tablet than in a book. Stories have to be, from my experience, shorter, faster, fast-paced, far more illustrations. So text and illustration has the mixture, the balance has to be different. I give you an example. A Knickerbocker book by now is a third of it's the same kind of story, but I write about 30% less text. And then I know and I can see that kids can read it very well and easily, and this is what I want. And there's far more illustration in it. But I'm not such a cultural pessimist as some people, because I say that's how it is.
Yeah.
Finished.
Yeah. And there's much more culture out there for children to consume. So how can we be pessimistic about?
Exactly.
I feel like we're going in a very interesting direction for children. They have so much to stimulate their minds and to inspire their creativity. And reading is only one format or one medium of that. So I don't think we should be pessimistic about it.
I totally agree.
It's an important one, but it's never going to be lost, it seems, because we're still drawn to it.
I couldn't agree more. Thank you. This is a very good summary.
Yeah, I try. You are also popular in China. Your books are translated into several languages, I think over 35 languages. So you've got international success. So this makes me wonder, do you feel that there is, kids have a universal makeup in what they seek in fiction, in stories? Do you feel like there's a universal recipe that makes us all the same, that makes us crave the same things for our imagination?
It makes us crave the same things for life, I would say. I think what I've experienced, there's a universal soul in us, especially in kids. Of course, taste and storytelling and perception, etc., varies from country to country. So it's luck if you have an international success. And there's, for example, a series of books I wrote, which is called All My Monsters. In German-speaking countries, it has done okay. In Spain, I think there were sold 1 million books.
Wow.
Yes, of 10 series books,
That's
1 million.
a lot.
It's unbelievable. The books there were so popular, the series.
Yeah.
Nobody knows why in Spain and South America.
Yeah.
And I have no idea. In German-speaking countries, it was never that big.
Yeah.
So this is how it happens. But there is a universal soul. And if you touch that, the chance of a bigger success in many countries is quite big. You can't plan it, you can't construct it, nothing. You just have to tell a story and let it fly.
This is also a good thing to remind ourselves, that this universal soul is there, especially in children, no matter how much these clouds take over when we get older. We're going to take a break, but I was wondering if you can remember any of those bedtime stories or any of those nighttime stories you did on the radio. Can you remember one of them that you really loved?
Oh, God, I loved so many.
Yeah.
It's a long time ago. Let me think about it.
Okay,
yes.
Have a think about it. We'll see if we can catch one after the break. Okay, let's go to a quick break. Thomas is a class act, right? You know what else is a class act? The Vienna Würstelstand's newsletter, the Vienna Weekly. In the Vienna Weekly, you will find tips that will go a long way in helping you live a happy life in Vienna. Event tips on the hottest new places in town, hottest, and much more. So I would suggest that you go over to viennawürstelstand.com and subscribe to that email and live a happy life. You deserve it. Let's get back to Brezina. Okay, and we are back with the man, the legend, Thomas Brezina. Do I make you nervous when I saw your glance at me like that? Come on, Jake. Tone it down.
No, why? It's a nice compliment. Thank you very much. People write it to me. I would have never thought of myself like that. And I don't want to think about myself like that. But I've learned one thing. When you get a compliment, you say, thank you.
Thank you.
So thank you.
Yeah. But you're a really humble guy. That's also very charming about you as well. So you are also now a storyteller of happiness on TikTok. How has that journey been to changing up your kind of content to fit the TikTok style?
That's an interesting story because I'm doing social media. I started doing it by accident, actually, 5 years ago. At that time, I did a little bit Facebook, Instagram, more or less nothing. And this was a time when I started thinking about my first book for adults, which was the adult version of Knickerbocker Gang. And I had this idea. Nobody believed in it. I didn't even have a publisher for that, but I wanted to do it. Then I sat down and I started writing it, and suddenly doubts creeped in and I couldn't continue. And so I took my mobile, had it in front of me and recorded a short video where I said, I'm sitting here at my desk in London. I want to write the adult sequel of the Knickerbocker Gang. What happened to them 15 years later? Would anyone be interested in that? And I posted it on Facebook at that time it was. And then I went for a walk. And an hour or two later, a friend of mine from Vienna phoned me and said, have you had a look at Facebook? I said, no, why? He said, have a look at the video. It already got 2,000 likes or so and 800 comments.
Wow.
Or things like that. And I looked at it and it was so overwhelming and I was so happy. And then I suddenly realized, well, actually, I don't know how to write an adult sequel of a kids series. Why don't I talk to my readers?
Fantastic.
And this is how I started it. And then on Instagram, by accident, I started talking about things I've learned in life about happiness. And I once posted a story where I said, no matter what happens in your life, if there's a lot of noise in front of the house, if you had an argument with someone, or if the flowers are in bloom, and if you are in love, always think of the 4 words which make everything better, or which will give you comfort in hard times. And I posted that with a couple of pictures, and then I had to rush into a meeting. And I came out 2 hours later or 3 hours later, and I had hundreds of direct messages saying, and what are those 4 words?
Didn't see that coming.
I forgot. And, the 4 words are, this too shall pass. Auch das geht vorbei in German.
Yeah.
And what it means is it gives you comfort in hard times, but in good times it reminds you, enjoy now and don't wait. So, and this is how it started. And then a publisher approached me and said, we would like to make a book and write about education or so. And I said, no, I don't want to do that. And his assistant looked at me and said, my girlfriend follows you on Instagram and she likes whenever you talk about happiness, etc. Why don't we do a book about that? And I said, yes. And this was Tu es einfach und glaub daran, just do it and believe, how you get more happiness into your life. This was my first self-help book, and it became instantly, it was the #1 self-help book in Austria in 2018, so I was surprised. And this is how it started. And then I did Instagram, and a little bit of Facebook. And last summer, someone wrote to me and said, why are you not on TikTok? At that time, I had the impression TikTok is only about music and dancing, or things like that. And I looked at it.
Did you sigh when you heard this? You're like, not another channel.
No, I'm excited about it.
You're excited.
I get excited about it. And I looked at it, and suddenly I thought, I want to do that. I love video.
It's brilliant. No?
And I tell you something, social media I love so much because I don't need anybody for that. I just take my mobile, I do my videos, I edit them myself. I have all the...
You do it all yourself?
I do it all myself.
You do a great job.
I do it. I love doing it.
Yeah.
And, okay. And then I will never forget, I think it was the 15th of August or 16th, I posted the first video. And I looked at it, nothing, now 1 view, 2 views, after half an hour, so 5 views.
You're like, what is this? I'm famous, come on.
And I thought, okay, forget about it, nobody wants it. Okay, the next morning I woke up and I had another look, and suddenly there were, 7,000, 8,000. By lunchtime it was 50,000. And it just went high. And I started doing it by saying, okay, on TikTok, I only want to talk about happiness and things which can make happy, also what's fun, etc. And I love to play around with those videos. I love this very fast editing. And for me, it's a very interesting experience also in storytelling, because you really have to keep your viewer kind of focused. You have to make them curious, because if they don't watch most of the video, it won't, it won't appear in the For You page on others. And the response I got, and also the audience I have on TikTok, is completely different from Instagram. And of course, from Facebook.
Definitely.
I mean, I can't post a TikTok video on Facebook. People say, "Oh my God, I can't see anything. It's so fast." And I must say, also the messages, the comments I got, they were so nice and kind. And in autumn, I had a book presentation about, I write about Empress Sisi, which Empress Elizabeth Sisi in Austria, who is very, very famous. And I write about her solving mysteries now. And the first that was the presentation. And of course, I advertised it on TikTok that it's going to be. More than a third of the audience who came through TikTok.
Wow.
They are completely different people than who normally came. They were so kind. They were so, there were hundreds of people. Again, I'm so grateful, but they were so kind, and they were so, they brought a kind of atmosphere which showed me, yes, there are many different people, but it was very interesting. So I hope you can hear, yes, I love doing the TikTok videos.
Yeah. Well, TikTok it is full of clever storytellers from all walks of life. It is such an amazing space. I don't know how it has just come to be, but it's an incredible space for funny people, like doing comedy skits that are just, they could be on stage or on television, but they're on TikTok. It's made for you, a personality like you. It's perfect, and so also for what you want to dedicate it to, happiness, because it's a space of happiness. No.
Yes, and I think it's more because depending on your interest, you get the videos, but you have osteopaths doing really great videos. I learned a lot about posture, etc., where I have my problems, and
you're sitting up straight now.
Yes,
sit up straight.
Yeah. And the videos professional people create to various topics.
Yeah,
I think it's great,
yeah.
and I think, for me, the biggest creative potential at the moment I see in TikTok.
Yeah.
What what people are creating there, this is amazing.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, you could watch it all day as well. Like it's a great channel. Are there any creative projects that you've always wanted to do but you haven't done yet? Or is there a book in you that you've got your sights on that you still want to do, that's kind of sitting there waiting for you?
Yeah, there are lots of books.
Yeah.
I must say, I always have lots of notes and books, and I'm constantly writing.
Yeah.
And also television, movie less, television series. There's a lots of ideas I would like to follow up, which always needs, of course, broadcasters or streaming services or stations. And there, how shall I say that? I'm very impatient. So I always want to do everything at the same time. And by now, I think one of the biggest lessons I've learned is to give things time, meaning I'm doing the things I'm doing now. In the back of my head, I have my ideas. I tell those ideas also to my team. But I've learned the time has to be right.
Yeah.
So I just have to not sit back. I can make a concept or anything, but I can't push. If I do, it doesn't work.
Another good piece of advice from Thomas Brezina. You're full of them. You live between London and Vienna. I want to just focus in and hone in on Vienna for a second. Do you have a place in Vienna that particularly inspires you, or do you find inspiration in Vienna for some of your stories?
Yes. Look, I find a lot of inspiration in Vienna, and I'm very proud of the history we have. And, it's very easy. Sometimes people make so much fun about the Lipizzaner horses or about the Sängerknaben, the choir boys. They said, ha, 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 yeah. And then they juggled with Mozart balls, ha, ha, ha. I am proud because when I sit in Vienna and I open the papers and then I see that the Lipizzaner are appearing and the show is sold out a year in advance or things like that, it makes me proud. So I get a lot of inspiration from historical places, but actually from the history behind. I was very lucky at the Natural History Museum. They showed me parts and they showed me those, the basement, the storage cellars, which go, I think, 6 or 8 floors down. What you can see there, the animals they have there. Yes, some of them are completely extincted, but they still have a stuffed one there.
What was the weirdest thing that you saw down there?
A wolf with a patch, like a kangaroo. Yes, that existed. Der
Really?
Beutelwolf. Yes, es gab den Beutelwolf, and I saw it.
You could have used that in the story.
I already have.
And I haven't read that one yet.
And they took me up to the roof. I was at the Rathaus, a town hall, I was doing research for a certain book, and they took me up the tower on the highest spot.
Wow.
And I could look down on Vienna. I mean, those are experiences and things which are very good and important for me.
Yeah.
And I get ideas by walking around.
Yeah.
And looking around.
Yeah. Do you have a character that you most identify with that you've created? Like detective? Have you always wanted to be a detective, maybe?
Yes, as a kid, I wanted to be. I would never have the courage. I would never have a tenth of the courage my characters have, but doesn't matter.
You live through them. You don't need to have the courage.
Exactly. Yes. And yeah, those are places in Vienna I like. I also like modern Vienna, but I must say, if you think, for example, all these secret passages under the first district, you could walk from house to house through passages at that time. And I love that the sewer system, the famous sewer system, that's for me, that's very unique.
Yeah.
And I think that's great. And, you know, Viennese culture, there's a Hotel Imperial and there's the Imperial Cafe, and I really like it there. But my mother used to meet her closest friend every 3 weeks in the Cafe Imperial. And at that time, she was end 80s or so already. Yeah. And her friend, who is, thank God, my mother unfortunately is not alive, but her friend Liesl is alive. She's in April 104. Okay,
wow.
the two ladies met there, always in the same booth. Booth.
Yeah.
Booth. And always in the same booth.
Yeah.
And talked about everything, about life, about death, about everything. And then my mother passed away, unfortunately, 5-6 years ago. And okay, when I phone the Cafe Imperial, and it's the head waiter on the phone, and I say, hello, it's Thomas Brezina. I would like to book a table. Then he says, the booth of your mother will be reserved for you. I mean,
oh, that's beautiful.
Where do you have that?
That's beautiful.
I find it always so touching because it's such a, and he always said it was always so nice seeing them both sitting there and talking.
Yeah.
He still remembers. And when you hear such a thing, this is for me a lot Vienna.
Yeah. Wow. Are there any other places, so bars or cafes you'd recommend in Vienna that you'd love to hang out at?
Let me think. Okay, I have a restaurant recommendation. 23rd district in Vienna, Liesing, it's called. Liesinger Platz. This is where, you know, the Schnellbahn and everything, all the buses comes, etc. And there's a restaurant, and I've been going there because I live close by, and I've been going there for, I don't know, 30 years probably, which is called Stasta. S-T-A-S-T-A. It's a family name.
Yeah.
And it has been there, I think, for 100 years. So it's a family. And this is for me a Viennese restaurant at the best. Always friendly, extremely good food, lovely garden in the summer, very comfortable inside. And so this is not first district, this is something else. And this is why I want to tell you. Stasta is a place which I can always recommend.
Beautiful. I loved the insider tip. Thank you so much for sharing so much of yourself today. I really appreciate it. You're not only a role model for kids, but also for me, not just because of your, you know, what you've achieved, but more because of why you've achieved it and what you've dedicated your life to just bringing joy into and there's few people that do that. You're a very rare human being. And I thank you for that.
Thank you.
Really, like dedicating yourself to that is very admirable. And I thank you for your time today.
Thank you very much for the invitation and for the great questions, which makes it much easier to answer. Thank you so much. It was a great pleasure for me.
I very much enjoyed it. Thank you, Thomas. Okay, it's official. I've got a man crush and it's on Thomas Brezina. What a incredible individual, really. I highly recommend you follow everything he does on TikTok, on Instagram, read his books, binge watch Tom Turbo into the early hours of the morning. It's all really good for the soul. And it does actually bring you back and remind you of that inner child that we all have. Anyway, that was the worst guide to living in Austria with Thomas Brezina. Next week, we're going to be joined by Van der Bellen. No, probably not. But it will be somebody just as interesting, and I hope you join us for the next episode. As we always say at the end of this podcast, and no matter how bad you think you've got it, no matter how miserable you are, according to the Viennese, they've got it worse. Bussi and Baba.
So, ja, okay. Ja. Ich mag nimmer.